Uno, dos, tres, probando, probando. Yep.
A ver, aquí, ¿está bien? Aquí está, ya está probado, están probando, ya están probando, hay un cierto ruidito, pero yo creo que está todo bien, Okay, this is English, right? So, ¿cuál canal es inglés y cuál español?
Ustedes es canal 2, el canal 6.
Ah, okay. For English is channel 2 and Spanish, yeah, channel 6.
Okay. Oh, because they don't want interference from upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
No, el muchacho de amarillo.
Yeah, she said there's no buzz.
Good morning to all of you. Let's continue with our procedures. After a very active and interesting starting of our debate, we're going to continue here. You have a note on the background of this session. I'm going to go as quickly as possible to our substance. The debate pretends to be a high-level settlement that includes keynote speakers, mentors, and everyone at the same level for the recommendations on how to empower the youth to change the world through the use of ICTs. This is the big thing. The debate will also link the current decision makers at public and private sectors with the future global change members, so both sides can learn from the experiences of each other. The guiding question for the debate will be, how do we make sure that ICTs are recognized as a tool in the post-2015 development agenda? So we will alternate with the different sectors in the discussion, and I invite the audience online and in the room to share their views on the debate, the social media, using hashtag numeral beyond 2015. The first thing that I will ask is the Secretary General of ITU, to start this debate from a local perspective. I'm a dual Secretary of International Communication Unions, is the United Nations for ICTs, and you are a primary advocate and admire the way you two empower youth to ICTs. When you look back at yourself at the age of 25 years, what platform do you have to express your views, and how do you see future generations having more opportunities? This is the kind of questions that I received, the ones that you only read to old people. But we are not old, because we are all young and hard, and we are participating with tremendous youth spirit here. Thank you, Ambassador. Yes, last week I turned 60, but I was telling my friends I was still 20, 3 times 20, or 20 years and 40 years of experience, because I feel blessed actually. One day when I was a student, we were innovative too. Imagine there was no Twitter, no Facebook, no internet, especially no Skype. I was thrown in the cold, coming from Mali, the north of Mali, in the Sahara Desert, where I was born, to the very cold St. Petersburg in Russia, in Moscow, where I did my master's and my PhD in engineering and became a satellite engineer. To communicate with my parents, I sent a letter. It would take 1 month to get there and 1 month back. So imagine when among our friends, if one of us received a letter, everyone would congratulate you for having received a letter. That's how we were. But we were creative because we became ambitious. I became an engineer. I was taught to try to be the best in everything I do. And I'm happy to be like you today, to be a generation like you. It was one of my dreams. I had big dreams at the time. I was taught to know that anyone can have a dream, even behind bars, and that there are 3 types of dreamers and leadership. There's one type of leader who would dream of something big, so big that would wake up in part. It's huge. It was huge. Another type of leaders who wake up after a big dream and say it was just a dream, and they go back to sleep. And guess what? And there's a third type of dreamer who would say, oh, I can do this, and will share that dream. And that's what people call a vision. A vision is a shared dream. Yes, that is one of the things I learned from university. When I thought about Secretary General, ITU is the highest post in my field as an engineer. It was not a dream too big for me. I started working on it. In my life, I've been lucky to see so many people who are leaders. Of course, I've seen some poor leaders to go back to sleep, some of them who are sweating. But there are enough leaders who would sit down and write down, take notes, and in the morning they will share those dreams. And that's the type of leadership that I'm expecting from you guys here. Thank you for this reminder of how build career and you build your aspirations, which is always an important reference for important people to know. Now I go to Maria Gomez. You had a very important function as a Secretary General of the United Nations in a very interesting conference. It one of those models, very interesting exercise for people to approach institutions like United Nations and where international community gets together. So I would like to have your input on how this conference went, the role of ICTs. If you really believe this is a real tool of empowerment for youth. We gathered almost 350 students in January. Age range 14 to 19. They were quite young. The conference was structured. The main theme was ICTs as a way forward, development, peace, and prosperity. First of all, about the theme, we think that our students, they think, well, ICTs, Facebook, Twitter, Skype, and LinkedIn was not their thing, but it was a little bit complicated at first. I don't know. Some said, I don't know what ICTs mean. Others said International Telecommunication Union. That's what they thought. I've never heard of that. And they said, I've never seen that meeting. I remember when they entered the room the first days and we had the keynote speakers. We had Mr. Touré, the ambassador of Costa Rica. We were talking about child protection, privacy, cyber terrorism. They were talking about internet as a human right. I remember the students, they discussed that for 3 days. They wrote resolutions. Of course, the resolutions were not sent to the UN. They were just results. What happened at the end of the conference was quite amazing. We had the feedback. We talked about the conference. They said great debate, great talk, and this was the student who said, now I got the thing. I said, really? Yes. I see this as a way forward to development, peace, and prosperity. The aim of the conference was, in my opinion, to see how Facebook, Twitter, others could become development, and then through development, education, peace, and then prosperity, and how it was a key for the future, but most importantly, how he as a young person could change the world and make it better. It's very interesting because with that testimony, you got a very good result. There was a conception about how this approach could serve to the big cause of this development prosperity. And from there is that you can think about starting the engagement to do that. Our idea here is to see how we can, from the point of view of the private sector, the international sector, the government sector, we can all put our forces together and develop programs that could empower youth and facilitate the use of ICTs. We have with us the Minister of Science, Technology, and Telecommunications of Costa Rica, Alejandro Cruz Molina. Thank you very much for being with us today. We would like to know what are the programs your ministry has in place and how you are developing these activities, because one thing that is very important is political commitment. And political commitment, apart from the conception of the ideas, can be reflected most important way in the budgetary commitment. So are your political commitment and budgetary commitment together? Are you having problems with the Ministry of Finance to realize your political visions? You sent me 3 questions at least, but let me speak a little bit about the Costa Rican experience, the good and the bad. Because the resources as well as the mission and the vision that we have. The Ministry of Science, Technology and Telecommunications is a tripod. That tripod is based on 3 basic elements: human capital, innovation and productivity at the small and medium enterprises, and telecommunications and the digital world as empowering tools for both, for the human resources for people as well as for businesses and the society in general. Being human capital, our main and first and foremost mission, institutional mission for the young people. We have established several programs and we interact very much with a great number of students at the grade high school level and university and grade school level. Let me just mention some very briefly. In Costa Rica, we have many regional and national science and technology fairs, and that relates us with a lot of innovative, creative projects and at different levels. At the end of these programs, we have some international competitions, and I was talking here with Natalia, who went to ISO Challenge, the International Science and Engineering Fair, supported by Intel. Every year for the last more than 10 years, very nice group of Costa Ricans, boys and girls, go to participate in a worldwide competition. Probably 160 countries, over 1,500 students. And then we feel that contributes a lot to what we call vocation towards knowledge and innovation. The other programs that we have that are similar relate to the national and world robotic competition, to the Latin American and Spanish American Olympics in math, physics, chemistry, biology. And probably what these efforts today do is a website called Talento Joven, .go.cr. Talento Joven, which I invite you to visit, is a platform that started with a couple of hundred students, then it went to 600, and now it's over 1,700 boys and girls that are sharing their experiences, that are participating in other programs that relate them science and technology. This country wants to be in the transition from an efficient economy, efficient use of resources, to an innovation economy, and we cannot do that if we don't have the proper human capital. So, for that reason, we hold next to this platform, we hold fairs that relate to graduate students, scholarship fairs. We have been implementing them for 25 years, scholarship fund, but next year we hope to have new resources to even extend those programs to young people who will go to study abroad or in the country at the graduate level, masters or PhDs, but also we want to support two other programs in that direction. One is updating professionals, Costa Rica Certifica or Califica, and to comply with the needs of the productive sectors so they become employable in the cases that's needed. And the other very dear program to us is entrepreneurship program. The country has already a network of incubators, and we feel that support more incubators, we will have more and more small and medium enterprises related to technology, to quality jobs and opportunities for young people. In fact, in the area of telecommunications, we have already been talking about establishing something similar to what's called WIDA in the Telefonica world. Of course, it would be open to other operators. But that is to give you an example of how we comply with our mission of fostering vocations towards science and technology. Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Very comprehensive answer that shows really how Costa Rica has had a tremendous transformation and innovation in the field, and you have been an example in our region in Latin America about these new avenues and possibilities in being in tune with modernity and progress, which is a very important thing, and it looks like you really understood on the time the needs of transformation. Countries like Costa Rica, that has been on the agricultural sector very powerful, continues to innovate and to create programs not only to the benefit of rural areas but also the more sophisticated technological aspects. This is a good way to pass now to our Charney, our Senior Vice President of Cisco, who already gave us a very good approach on how his company and previous experiences combine the approach for the future and the way the youth should take the challenges not only of life but also of productivity and success. Ideas that are at the end were challenges in a very different way. Now you can elaborate a little bit more about how do we really promote new graduates, how we need to create special conditions for getting productivity, private sector, or how the companies of the future are going to prepare better technicians and better innovators.
Let me tell you, this precondition to the creation of this information society. The precondition is education. You go nowhere without an education, nowhere. You have no job, you have no future. So the precondition is an excellent education. And so the people who we hire, the company hires, they're very educated individuals. And so one of the things that we have to work on as a society is to provide a high level of education to everybody who wants it. It should be universal. It should be varied. It should be the needs of individuals who wish to study dance and art and also technology and also engineering. And so when we talk about how do you make this society occur, I say, well, we create educated people. Then we provide those educated people with opportunities. Sometimes the opportunities are created by yourself. you take a risk. When I started companies, the risk of failure was high, but you know, the upside was also very high. And so I encourage people to take risks. I encourage people to, especially young people, to, when the downside risk is low, take the risk. And what's going to happen along the way is you will create value. Now, gentlemen, the last session sounded very capitalist. Not necessarily, because people take risks to create socially beneficial enterprises that have nothing to do with profit, like solving diabetes in Mexico. That has something to do with profits. Not really. It has to do with the fact that it's an epidemic. So I think the question you ask is, how do we get from here to there? And the way we get from here to there is a clear education agenda, and then an openness of our society to admit of people to take risks and for them to fail. You heard that word, it came out in the last session, to fail. In Europe, it's very difficult to start a business because if the business fail, your CD is staying. When I come from, if you start a business and the business fails, who cares? You start another one. You start Google. I mean, what does the difference it make? I can tell you how many resumes I've seen of people fail, and then they went to a company and other people and started Facebook. You know, it's like, it's good. So there's something cultural. It's not just education, it's also movement of culture and agendas. Thank you very much. Somebody, this is one of the ways to be an entrepreneur is not to fear and just to move ahead. At the end, we don't have an existentially experience. At the end is the accumulation of mistakes, the accumulation of bad judgment, and then you say, I want to do this again, and sometimes you do it again. Thomas Edison said when he was asked about the development of the first talking machine, and he had failed 1,000 times, and he was asked, was frustrated. He said, no, I know 1,000 ways how not to make a talking machine. This is okay. It's very okay. And then there's another aspect, which is motivation. In one of these forums, I asked a youngster, how do you get forced to this? Very simple. I told my friends I ready doing things when I me, so he moved on and became an inventor, and he's 24 years old today. And now I would like to turn to Natalia Rodriguez, Rhythm Minister. Reference to your work, you are this operations engineer in Telco Corporation and U.S. engineer employer for Intel, leader in gold industry and IT sector. What was your concern? Do you think that the youngsters that trying to be part of the whole process, innovation and technology, and getting the right opportunities, are being taken seriously? How do you see your role? Well, the way I see it, when I just graduated in May, so I'm pretty just 2 months being an engineer, and the thing that I see, well, I want to focus on women because this is like the key of the engineering field. Not a lot of women like to get the engineering career, the engineering majors. I would like to share an experience when I was in my engineering school, technological Monterrey. Normally when I ask the finance girls why they are starting finance. They said to me, "Well, I like science, but I was too scared to study engineering because I thought that was pretty difficult." So I was one of the three women who study electronics in my year. We were almost 50 with only three women. So my major concern is to incentive to promote engineering in women. Normally, I saw men on Facebook that normally families they promote to women is to be a princess, not to be brilliant. So my major concern here is we have to start promoting technologies and education to women from kids' age. You see now, I know we have 7, if I take a tablet, like a smartphone or whatever, we were in this change of having a 3, a Pike would just run and skate to start getting computers, tablets. So the transformation of technology, and I think right now, and this is a specific point when we can take kids and start giving the idea that create innovation, new things is the key for tomorrow, is the key for what we're going to have tomorrow. So this is my specific point of view that we have to start promoting equally education and technology. Thank you very much. I think this is a message that is very important to keep in mind and to repeat and repeat as much as possible. This is one of the goals of the United Nations. The international community has created a specific agency, UN Women, that is working, empowering women to give them equal opportunities, to promote youth, and to make the playing field an equal one in which boys and girls, men and women could work together and treat each other as an equal. That's very important. Thank you very much for telling us this impressions. Now let's turn to the young entrepreneurs, a group that has been at the center of ideas and innovations. And that's Nugal Shipwhisper and co-founder of Subchata, and you have been working in this innovation. You have another company called Niview, make windows available over the internet, and then also the new company you with the issue of sharing photos and memories. But you need some investors. You need some money to move on your business. What's the difficult at the beginning? To show them and to convince them it was worth it to give it a shot. I think if you look at the question, one is that you need to understand the end of the entrepreneur, because I think this roadmap that people have about going into entrepreneurship is starting a business, and it's very romantic from the outset, but it's a life where it's continuously uncomfortable, and you're comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think it's not a skill that teaches you that it's a tough time as you run a business. But I also think that as an entrepreneur, it is the journey that is much more important than the results. It's about dreaming and believing. It's about being a misfit, as Steve Jobs said. It's a strange little king in the corner of the room. It's about someone who sees beyond the normal things that we're looking at. But more importantly, it's someone who's willing to go against what difference it makes. You know, everyone's parents are almost logically assigned to senior college. But entrepreneurs that I know have left college, and they build some of the biggest businesses around. And to really understand who gets funded and who doesn't, it's about knowing who lives at the center of reality. Because ultimately entrepreneurs are people who are comfortable with failing, comfortable with free thinking, even if it's not the norm. and they have that self-belief of power. They can do anything if they set their minds into. But your question also strikes another quarter of the notion of profitability. And I think today's entrepreneurs are not driven by profit. Today's entrepreneurs follow the logic of business design experiment, which are leaders like Eric Reeds and some of the young entrepreneurs. Today we follow the philosophy that solving a problem, a basic human need, a basic human emotion, that's important. Once you solve that, you can work out harder making a justification, who pays, more the diverse advertising model, whatever, whichever way it is. Then you're a bit of entrepreneurs, and I think why normal is the summit is it's about someone who's looking at sustainability as also as economic gain, and those three have to go hand in hand. It's not just about real economic benefit anymore. And raising money is a test. It's a test of how much you're willing to go beyond that romantic vision, how much you're willing to deal with difficult situations as they arise, and how much conviction and how distorted your reality feel is when you're speaking to these people who are going to give you money. And ultimately, you're raising money was some real simple things. It's a test, and it's on both sides. First business, we won this money raised $30 million over the course of that period, and now we invest in angel and a number of small businesses, and we never ever look at the businesses. Our view is that is a person sitting across the table, someone A who is technically correct, B. Do they really have what it takes to deal with tough times? It is very easy to be an entrepreneur. Very easy. You host it. But it's very difficult to take the notes. Because it's not one, it's not two. You may have 10 at a time. Every time you get a knock, every time you fail, it's the lesson on how to get up. And then we don't feel the person or the investor doesn't feel is going to have just true is not going to be something to have would invest. And finally, is it a basic human need? And if you look at all the things that with my best friend when we started with Nivea, it was about bringing access to technology to anyone, independently of economic ability. So we took the $2,000 notion of a laptop computer. We put it from the $50. We took the idea that you have this janitor just sitting underneath your table, which is used at 5% of today. And we made it, multiple people can use the same machine. And so by default, we brought down the economic cost of access to ICT. We did this in Jordan, at Majestic Queen School. We did it in India. We even did this in the U.S. and Europe. Because whether you're a small business, go into 2009, which is a tough period, or you are a young child in a Jordanian school, the basic access to technology was a human being need now. It's no longer optional. And if you look, which sort of is going to be own, we're touching human memories, things we have when we pass away. The only things that are most fundamental beyond communication is the ability to reminisce. And hopefully, entrepreneurs who are in the audience will go to investors with a human problem that they're trying to solve, not a way to make money. And I guarantee to you that if there's a human problem you're solving, money will find you. Thank you very much. I think this is a very good approach to the analysis of not only the motivation of entrepreneurs, the goals so they can be established, but also the function of that activity has. So it's not only money. There are much more things involved in development activities and creating and innovating. This is very important because today, with the notions of social responsibility and sustainable development and equal opportunities and participation, all this get together and give a sense of the activity that implies a multiple approach to develop your business, and it's not just money. I would like to seek the opinion of Claude check out Lisa. She's from Rwanda. Has been the founder member of CLAP. You would tell us what CLAP is, and my question goes in the sense of to see how much your government has been involved, to what degree you feel you have received support, and how this IT activities are seen in Rwanda. Thank you. So it's KLab. KLab stands for Knowledge Lab, which is Tech Innovation Hub. And of course, the government has been helping a lot since KLab started. As some of you know, President Kagame, the chairs of the Bank Commission, along Carlos Slim. So he understands ICT, and recently a friend of mine from India was telling me whenever you want to run as an investor and you bring in ICT, all the doors are open for you. So it's a very strong political will behind using ICTs. As maybe some of you know, Rwanda is a landlord country with a lot of bad past before 1994. We don't have any natural resources, so the only resources that we have are people. And if you look at the categories of people, many people in the informal sector, so they run small businesses. So the only way for them to grow their businesses is to use tools that allow them to grow their businesses, and it has been a reality that ICT is the tool that allowed to grow all the sectors. As for the government is really supportive. KLab itself is a kind of giant project between private owners and the government, but also the gentleman for Cisco said education is key. It's the foundation of everything. The government is supporting and promoting education. For example, recently, Carnegie Mellon University opened a branch of FAST1 in Rwanda, and they deliver master degrees in ICT and focusing mainly on programming. There's also another aspect that the government enforces, which is law under regulations. As in myself, I'm around KLab, where I meet young entrepreneurs every day. If there is no strong for marketplace that promote companies, trust me, they're gonna be like hitting the wall. So the government is really helping. First of all, we get a lot of consultants from other side currently. They're working on the law. They're asked all external consultant funds when they come to Rwanda to team up with local people for skill transfer, because they used to pay them, and when they go back to their countries and there's a problem, no one is number to follow. But also even local people can and they're already signed. There is also, in terms of access to capital, skills is one thing, and tech industry and also capital is really needed. And we find that in my country, they were putting a lot of effort into having financial institutions giving out small loans because most of them they can't even afford buying a host application. And another element that I like to talk about is infrastructure. Infrastructure really requires a lot of investment. And in my country, the government has put a lot of money in broadband and all that kind of stuff, and they're now giving us an opportunity to young people to generate content. And recently, the government just signed KT with a 4 TL across the country, and recently the Master ICT and having structures. The next thing is content, and one or two guys to develop dual applications, because in Rwanda, old people always call us a BVC, but before in computers. That means they call the young people .com. So you guys are .coms infrastructure. There's all over the country. It's up to you to generate content and actually how to make a living out of it. And maybe also talk about the impact that we have seen. Innovation is really an interesting area, and what you need is a brain. You need to work hard, and you need mentorship. Maybe you can. We have seen many people creating jobs. We have seen people working on something for 2 months, failing, bring it again, failing, bring it again, and then after 2 months you receive a call. I go to clients from applications that come from nowhere. That's the beauty of entrepreneurship. The people that need to work hard, you need to reinvent the wheel, and no solve every problem. We have seen many calls from people
going, giving them challenges. So I need this kind of system. And what is interesting is that it doesn't work like any other system. You have to see your previous background. They have 8 pages CVs. It's about you can do to solve a problem. We've really been working with the government. It's going quite well, and on the continental level, we see that there is a lot of startups coming up. They are close to 100. There is what interesting says that in Sudan you cannot work with take-ups. All over in Africa is becoming very interesting, and they're becoming birthplace of many innovation. One they have 2. They're allowing young people to create jobs. They create jobs, they create solutions. Another key elements these are homegrown solutions. For example, a guy from India comes in random and develops an application, is in a random develops the same application because they understand that easier than any other person. This is like really giving a chance to everyone. There are other types of social pressure. For example, there's a gentleman recently came to me, and he was like, my parents don't understand how it's been 7 months and I keep asking for transport. I look at him in the eyes, but what is your passion? He told me, I want to create an application and sell it and become famous. And he's one telling him to work. Either one responsible for his status, you should come and help me. And he told me, I told him, you go back, talk to your dad and tell him to give you a few months and you prove that you can do something, sell it and change life of people. And this gentleman came back to Spain, continued to work, and after 2 months his application was bought by someone. And my dad, I told him what happened. It's possible. So in some cases, especially developing countries, there's no room for innovations. Parents or some sales approach want to use the same channels that they use. You finish school, you go get a job, you take care of your siblings, and when your other sibling finishes school, it takes over. So they need these types of space, people to work together, to collaborate, motivate each one another, and sometimes especially see what tools are helpful, especially for young channels. Thank you for a very interesting presentation, especially putting the accent in the motivation that we spoke before. This friend of yours, he wanted to be famous. Tell him that his case was considered here in the global summit, so tell him he's already famous. Thank you for the continuation of your activities. Let's see from the perspective of the youth leaders that are approaching or being part of government or linked with governments in developing ICTs. Senad Rahman is Special Advisor for Global Youth Issues at the U.S. Department of State. You are the right of Secretary Khalid. If there's any position, you are the first, I understand, to be the second to be in this position. So telling what has been the genesis of the U.S. State Department to really put an interest and develop these activities with you. Thank you, Ambassador. So the question is, why is the U.S. government care about youth issues enough to appoint a new special advisor? I think the response is very simple. The biggest challenges that we face in the world cannot be solved without the participation of young people. So this is something that we think is good to do. It's a good opportunity, but we realize that gone are the days where diplomats just speaks to other diplomats. This is a new world, and in a way are helping us navigate with this new world. Just by example, looking at this panel, a panel like this wouldn't even existed 5 years ago. A position like mine would not have existed 5 years ago. But I think as we look forward, the idea of youth issues is a bit of a false construct, because I think when I hear you talk about health issues, how we accelerate positive change to create a more just and equitable world, young people will make the majority of the population, and in many countries already do. And then if you look at those, what are those things that will accelerate positive change? ICT and youth are at the core of that. And as we look at youth at the forefront of societal transformation, the U.S. government wants to look at the support of and how we support and accelerate that change. So in the ICT space, access to networks is what has been talked about this morning, that we support. So access to networks through regulatory reforms, stronger policies encourages internet freedom. All of these things are critical components to be able to unleash the talent that exists among young people. We are currently living amongst, if you see, look at millennials, the biggest youth generation that has ever existed. So your cohort of young people, imagine that amount of human capital that you represent. The U.S. government sees that. I really believe the solutions to the problems that we face will come from here, but it is imperative for you to help us foster mechanisms like this by giving us recommendations and solutions that we take to the platforms and conversations that we have. And so when you talk about skill, I think we are all wanting to do things, and many individually are trying to figure out how to do that as young people and the environments we live in. Some of us are looking at social issues and say, how do we do this? How we talk about unemployment, youth unemployment around the world, access to nutrition and health, environmental issues. And so these issues seem very big, but they won't be solved without using a multi-stakeholder approach, and that has to include policymakers, private sector, innovators, young people themselves. So I think as we move forward more and more, we will look at global challenges with a multi-stake global approach, and the United States wants to be part of that conversation. Thank you. It is how important for those who are involved in policy making to go to the roots and to listen and take the impressions, the opinions of those who are close to the basis of politics and economic activity. I would like to ask Gusel Sara Farova, who is from Azerbaijan, who is the chair of the organization Azerbaijani Youth to Europe, AGAT. Will you explain a little bit what do you do and how do you think that in your part of the world, what you are doing and what you are promoting is really being taken in the political process in your country and in the movement of ideas? Gulsel, you have the floor. Thank you very much. First, I'd like to greet you and all the participants of the forum. It's a great pleasure to be here. Please accept the greetings for Azerbaijan. I'm the chair of Organization Integration of Azerbaijani Youth to Europe. Our mission is to the youth more active in the Euro-Atlantic integration. We're doing a lot of international events like these forums, events, seminars, and try to be really close to ICTs, because now, as you mentioned, and other experts mentioned, that ICTs are part of our data life. So what we see now that at present the whole world sees dynamic protest. This is the process of transition to the information society. So in this point of view, if we consider this protest very important, the flagman is the protest is using the ICT is youth, the ICT youth. Let's say using social network programs, etc. Even social, cultural, and political life, we see linked with ICTs. In my country, this year is the year of presidential elections, so after a couple of weeks we will elect our president. So we see, I'm a young activist, not only chair, I have other social situations in my activities in my country. In this process, the people who support their candidates, they're using ICT as a main tool of announcement. Even those candidates, they use social networks as a main tool to perform their main platform. So even in my country, social Facebook, Twitter is more useful in the society. More than 1 million youngsters in Azerbaijan are using Facebook. So helpful is this on Twitter. If something happens, political protest, everybody knows from Facebook or Twitter. So this has been a great contribution. Both candidates do a lot of promises about ICT, and people go behind those people who really see the realities. In fact, as you know, in Azerbaijan, their second sector more profitable during the last 5-6 years. There are 3 main state programs: the establishment ICT Institute that was linked with the youth. The second one is to install high-tech parks that would be linked, especially youth, and this will build a bridge between scientific and production fields in ICT sector wealth, and something that is linked with Youth ICT Foundation. As you see, state programs are directed to the youth. Of course, other people can use, as you mentioned, is more popular by youth. When people they tend a political life of the country, now people use as a tool this kind of things. What government does in the ICT sector, especially in my country. So when we talk about democracy, openness, transparency of society, we are looking to the ICTs. What is the level? What is the freedom in internet, let's say? So in my country, internet access is free. And on all of these programs are state programs. How the people who use social networks will also vote, support these institutions that do execute their job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for what you have said, and I think you have touched a very crucial an area of ICTs, which is participation, capacity to act and to be heard. This I mentioned that one of our goals was to promote openness, transparency, accountability, and effectiveness. You have mentioned these concepts, and you have intervened. This is very important because these shows that the market needs to be taken into consideration, and the market for the politician is new now. It's not just a traditional way to pass the message, ask for support, and get the votes. Now, the tools of communication and exchange of views are so powerful that now you see the politicians enter into the game and being part of the new market. If they do not participate, then they will not come in, then they're dead meat. So this is very important, and countries like yours are in the process of opening and establishing identities. You are 20 years young as a country, so it is very important, and I hope that these elections could show how this democratic exercise could be taken in a very good way. Thank you very much. Yes, please. Something to add? All this program was about contemporary, let's see, not contemporary, but present of, so I think there is a new, let's say, program for the survey in 22. I look for the future, and the main points that were adapted is about ICT. So now survey was to be after 22. 2020, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Let's now see things from the angle of educators, those who are in this part. We have it as Derek Cupcake, who is Executive Vice President of Data Win, and you have been involved in education. What do you think are the steps and that should need to be taken before to improve education, and how do you promote and bring young people to be more involved in the use of ICTs? Well, I think with regards to ICTs in education, there is obviously a worldwide phenomenon that's going on. And ICT in education is getting a lot of endorsement, is getting broad recognition globally. You have governments that have started implementing tablets or ICT in education. For example, the Union government, which give a tablet to hundreds of thousands of university students. the government of Turkey, who is implementing the FATI project, giving tablets from all students from kindergarten to from grade 5 to 12. Thailand is going K to 12. So we're seeing the implementation throughout the world globally. Countries are getting behind it. Education ministers are realizing that this is a valuable tool to be able to have in the hands of students everywhere. And we have heard this all morning. We're talking about, all the speakers were talking about the ability to reach people through ICT. Then you heard the right students to have that. I believe it's a very strong factor globally that everyone is going to be offering tablets or computers to students. We even heard the students from India talking about how every student has their own tablet. So I think that getting ICT to improve education is going to be the first major factor in implementing that. I think the second major factor that is the drop in price. Affordability leads to broad deployments. You have the impact of open source operating systems, that's Android, allow the cost to drop significantly with regards to what can be included on a tablet. I think innovative marketing proposals and unique business models like that BYND has bring tablets into the market through almost commodity pricing. Set $30 pricing for PCs with unique business models and subsidizing hardware through advertising, etc. really makes it a compelling offer. So that drop in hardware costs is the second major factor. I think the third major factor leads to the success in ICT in education is the ubiquitous or cellular networks. So obviously, international telecom units are its major factor is to have cellular networks everywhere. Even in the remote regions, we're talking about limited band connections through low energy networks. The ability to have internet everywhere through this cellular network, it is really the key. Just going to drive education everywhere. The fact that you have, education at the access at your fingertips through. YouTube belongs. This is the largest reader library in the world. It's millions and millions of videos of education and content, which is now accessible to the world, most media. So having that access to education content in the remotest regions through the cellular networks and their compression, whatever it is, getting that low-cost hardware, getting that low-cost and ubiquitous cellular network, and having that recognition by those governments are the three key aspects which allow us to have education through ICT globally. Thank you very much for this very interesting analysis about the way education can be conducted on a basis to that are conducive to the interests of the new developments. Let's move now to very specific area of agriculture and sustainability. Agriculture is one of the areas in which you see how science and technology have gone through very, very important developments. If you look, how was the science and technology applications in 1950 and what they are today in 50 years, we will have had much more innovation and advanced in technology than in the previous 1,950 years, which is something amazing. And this is a crucial area in sustainable development because it's related to the good use of the limited land that we have and the good use of the limited water resources we have, and also how the food security and how the sustainability of production, how nutritional production of food is going to be performed, and how to deal with many aspects that need investment in science and improvement and the technologies of agricultural sectors. So Mario Sanchez is the original focal point for communications and public affairs of the World Meteorological Organization, which is very important and influential point of reference when we talk about agriculture, because the one something for sure is that you never know what the weather is going to be, at least in a very limited period of time, and how important it's going to influence your life. So how do you see this role, and to what degree you think that we can motivate the youth to really be aware of this sector? First of all, good morning. I would like to welcome who visited this country, especially those who come here for the first time. And since the meteorology is a field very linked to activities not only to agriculture too, but also to all socioeconomic activities of a nation, I allow myself to ask my colleagues of the Meteorological Service in Costa Rica to give me the forecast for this week, since you're going to be here. So I would like to let you know the mornings could be cloudy, partial, or totally with some rain during the afternoons. I think that's important because you said, Mr. Ambassador, how can we link agriculture? I would say not only how can we link agriculture, but also link all those activities that we develop in the field of meteorology, specifically this weather and water. And this is a very important topic, virtued out in our latitudes. 90% of natural disasters that we suffer come from events, from agro-meteorological events. That means the damage, the personal and material levels that we have and all this in this nation is very high, because of the excess of scarcity of water, of rain. For General Secretary of OMM, it's no doubt about that meteorology is a field that it should be hand in hand with the development of youth and children, because it's through them that they will acquire a major conscience about how to plan a development of their lives or the future and their nations, starting also from economic activities. And also the MMM has placed their interest in the development of initiatives of cooperation of drainage and the borders to be able to eliminate somehow the cultural barriers and knowledge barriers that unfortunately still prevail despite of the great development that we have, the technology has had in the last decades especially. We have the case of a project that the OMM has developed in this country that consists of a system of early alert in rural communities and the zone area of Sarpicatus on the R Caribbean, where technology was put in service to people when you can measure the amount of rain that happened, let's say, up in the mountains, on the higher mountains, and we can deduct in possible flooding or to provoke landslides in the lower parts. And the project consists, and they received the meteorological information from first hand about what are the conditions, the weather conditions during the week, the first 7 days, and also day by day. And they have planned their activities of all kind, and including the agriculture activities. And in case there is a warning about severe conditions, the same communities are already organized, especially with groups of youth people in schools, where they participate in measures and we can move to the more secure areas. This goes parallel to the policy of the government of Costa Rica that is supported by the OMM and the Meteorological Service of Costa Rica, where the meteorology is climate change is linked to the education curriculum. This is from first grade, the whole elementary and high school. The topic has been studied as part of their studies because the WMO with the meteorological services, they consider this priority. They also, if it's true, they need to use new technologies. It is more important the development of human capital, just like my partner and ex-partner at Costa Rica Tech, Alejandro Cruz, Minister of Science and Technology, that we have to develop human capital. We have to allow young people acquire the knowledge, because we have a great future if they have the technology but they don't have the knowledge of how to use that information. And I think that exactly it's through education from elementary school, the whole elementary goes from to university. If they have the chance to go to at least elementary and high school, this new generations of young people who in the future are going to have the leadership of our countries, that they're going to be able to develop and to achieve the goals that they have, and not only that, but also be able to act in benefit of our own nations. I also would like to finish with a reminder from Costa Rica Express President of Costa Rica said, if a nation doesn't put all of its efforts of interest and develop on science and technology, they will be subordinated to others, and they will never be their own master of their own future. So I think this goes parallel with the development of human capital. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution. You gave us a forecast. You brought me to my years in London when all the forecasts started. Scattered showers and sunny spells. And that covers everything. Thank you very much. I would like to come back to a previous lot of education. I was practicing the pronunciation of the name of our next contributor, who is Hetty Abrelias. She's a young teacher from Indonesia, and she's an Indonesian in her program in the new delegation. So I would like to have your contribution as a young teacher. How do you taking advantage in your profession about these innovations? How do you use it? How do you convey it to your students? And you think that's an area in which you get a good excitement from students you're dealing with? Okay, thank you. You're spelling my name. My name is Hetty. I come from Indonesia. I'd like to tell you about my experience in a remote area in Indonesia.
Working in the Mengajar program gives me a lot of experience. This Mengajar program sent me to the Borneo Island in Indonesia. There is limited water sanitation and electricity. Actually, I'm the only one young woman who teaches there in the school. Actually, I believe that ICT education is a good point, but I get difficult because they think ICT is expensive. There is no electricity, so ICT is so far away. is just a dream or something like that. And then I want to state that for ICT in an open area, ICT is easy to get. They can get access everywhere, but what we call remote areas, it's very difficult. I don't know why in remote areas they feel happy without electricity, without signal, with mobile phones. They feel happy, but we should helping them according to we want everyone to feel and enjoy the benefit of ICT. We should minimize the gap between rural and urban areas so everyone can feel the power that ICT can give. That is all. Thank you. Thank you very much. What you're doing there is really a work of creating awareness and promoting and making known that there are new tools that they are maybe not available now, but that you, your friends, the government and the private sector are working, and you have to be prepared for that. I'm going to invite now Juan Manuel Diaz. He is a representative of the Chilean Youth Finance International. I want him to tell us about this and the experiences he's receiving in his studies at Earth University of Costa Rica. I understand there's going to be a trip to this university, and how the agricultural sector is influencing and is it's taken into account in your activities. Thank you. I'll see. Typically, rural areas are the most affected areas and all levels where most families depend, especially on agriculture. They don't have the education or the resources to succeed, and they keep doing sustainable farming, and ICTs could help to form networks with small producers from different areas in order to organize and manage everything they produce, so they could have better profits without middle people. So earning the money they really produce, and they can have a better educations for young producers from portals, online magazines, updated documents to optimize their production and other sources of income. Not necessarily in agriculture, they can also try to open the opportunities they have to other sectors of the market. The government could have a constant communication with the communities using these resources to organize and follow up projects that maybe could be more difficult without these tools, or to listen to the biggest necessities these communities might have. Also, the health issues not far behind. Preventing campaigns can be implemented in a more interactive way with the communities. Like probably it could be more successful, like using campaigns like newspaper or something that not all people in the community get in contact with. And what I have been thinking about what the meteorological thing that we would discuss before, it could help the small producers to prepare for hard times. Nowadays, the weather is very different from 30 years before, so ICTs could help them to prepare the crops, like the harvest time, fertilizing time, so they could have better production in their crops. These are some of the ways I think that ICTs could help in the rural areas. And this is what I learned in my university, but there are many other ways that ICTs could be applied in rural areas. Thank you for informing us how you are developing your activities in your university and the main issues that you are tackling. I have been requested to add 2 more speakers, and I will go directly. We have 15 minutes before lunchtime, and I will directly to give the floor to some of you in the audience if you have questions or a comment. First of all, I'm going to give the floor to Faisal Al-Shwabi, ICT Qatar. You are working in the area of marketing and technology. Could you give us your contribution, please?
This morning, said that the word must to create opportunities for youth. So my perspective is one of the important points to create opportunities for youth is to care and support. There's a correlation within and use big companies, so since they don't require the same amount of experience that requires in the big companies. How do you submit the first target first? Youth. Also many ICTs help to reach most people. The most people they can. Therefore, we are to support, and we hope that other support. So, thank you. Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Hari Mohane from Crown Ventures. What is your work as a business incubator, and what opportunities have young entrepreneurs to start their own business? Thank you, Ambassador. Where are you from? I was born in Colombia, but I live in Costa Rica for almost 20 years. Good mix. First part of people, entrepreneurs, who tell their ideas. They need to start making the voices heard. For me, there are 2 kinds of entrepreneurs: value creators and thieves. Value creators are the ones who figure out and want to create. Well, first, they want to solve a problem. They want to solve a social problem. They want to give a solution to the world, and then they start worrying about how to make money. And the thieves are the ones who make money first. According to your creator, outside entrepreneurs, the first step to achieve a dream, as Mr. They explained, is selling the ideas. I don't know why people are scared about the products and ideas and think that they worry about what people are going to think about them and they fail or something, but support is needed, population is needed. So the first step for entrepreneurs is to talk about their ideas and figure out which are the people important to them and to the project, and go to them. Now, the people have access to ICTs in a way that it was impossible to imagine 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And you can have access to people from another world, like diversity. Diversity is needed right now. Innovative communities, largely and build on immigration and transfer and specific qualified labor contribute to the development of companies. So I'd say the youth ICTs you can have with an iPhone, you can have direct communication with someone. If you're in Costa Rica, you can have direct communication with someone in China or Russia. So I'll take that as the first part. The second part is do your task. There are a lot of great efforts happening in Costa Rica. For example, it was loans allocated by the government to project for the innovating component. Also, different initiatives with the same purpose, such as speed dating activities aimed at founder, co-founder, or media groups. So go to those areas, talk to people, do networking, look for the people who's going to be important to you, and start your desk. And I would say that for achieving a dream, it's up to you. If you want to achieve a dream, now you have access to a lot of things that you were supposed to imagine 10 years ago. Now take advantage of that and tell your idea, no matter how crazy it sounds. Just go forward. Thank you very much. It's a good way to finish the intervention. Now I give forward to Adriana Chavarria, who is the communication coordinator of the Central American Association for Aeronautics and Space. Once I know we're short of time, I'll try to make it quick. And that kind is the name of Spanish. We work with one of the most sophisticated levels of technology and science. And it usually is a field only for developed countries. We have NASA in the United States, we have TechSign in Japan, for example. We have European space in Europe. But most of the underdeveloped countries are not get involved in this field. As far as LA and Costa Rica has proved to the world that we have been prepared enough to get into the field of technology. And this is not the exception. So, there are a lot of people who truly believe that we also have the potential to start developing a new sector of the economy. It's a way, and we are collaborating to create a new model of development for not only the country but also the region in Central America. And this is actually what Alejandro Cruz was saying. We're trying to get involved into the economy of innovation. We're dealing with a couple of problems within the organization, not exactly from the inside, but the projects have been very successful, but from the outside. It's a completely new field. We're dealing with change of paradigm, and it's very difficult. That's why we are investing into youth of the country, because we're changing the paradigm. We cannot do it just in 2 years. We need 20, we need 30 years, we need 50 years maybe. So we start changing the minds of the young people now. We are going to be able to change into this model of innovation economy in the future, right? And beyond the allocation of resources that is needed for a field like this, there is also a big challenge that we have to face. That is that we need to educate people, not only the people who are already involved in the sector of science and technology, but also the civil society. We need the civil society to really support these innovations, projects, and we need to help them to understand that science and technology is most related to the normal and daily life than what they actually think. For example, in the Akai, we are developing the first Central American satellite, and it's not only to prove the world that we have the capacity to get involved into this field, but also will work for monitoring the different levels of carbon dioxide in the specific strategic areas of the country. So we're working actually in cooperation with the Ministry of Environment, and this is something that we hope is going to be a benefit for more than just our association or the people who are working in the project, right? So what the association is asking for is to have a strong connection between what we call the triple helix, which is the government, academia, and the private sector to support all this kind of projects. So we will collaborate, and we will have benefits for our population. Thank you very much. You have a huge problem to develop, and I hope you have all the support of different governments. We'll take some questions now if you want to direct the questions. This is great. We can put lunch forward to another day. And then if you want to direct your questions to a specific panelist, please say, I go to the far end. Yeah.
Your neighbor, you got the floor next, and you. Maybe a second. They have to be short questions, not declarations. Come on. A good question is a short one. Good morning. Morning, Spider Stoll from Spain. It's been commented that ICTs can be a good opportunity to develop jobs, to expedite tasks. It's easy to agree that the more individuals it gets to better. The thing is how to match the needs of the company with the uses of ITC can have. This question is for the table. What type of ideas could we think to? So there are useful applications that require access, that provide large solutions to users, because it's not about just big solutions, because otherwise it's going to be a simpler solution. Okay, that's enough. Maria Laura from Costa Rica. I would like to highlight something important that is non-formal education, but I think currently many of the workshops, seminars of this education is in the non-formal environment. So I would like to ask something, that is, what is the role of girls and young women, because they face lots of barriers, gender, poverty, and technological barriers. So how could we develop actions that overcome these barriers? My name is Shakira Z from Afghanistan. Finally, after 96 our trips, I'm here now. I have a question. I came late. I don't know your names. I'm sorry. It was good that you mentioned you implemented the project, $2,000 computer or something. How can we implement these types of projects in other countries like my country, Afghanistan? 2 more questions, and then I give the floor to the panelists. Good morning. Ana Cecilia Salazar from Guatemala. My question is, how can we, as the youth, help adults? In that version they have, we have implemented a system for the national coordination for disaster reduction as graduation project, but we had found a barrier because those who will use this system are older and they want to change in regards to use of ICTs. We have to be educated. The young have to educate the old people. My name is Rodas from Iraq. ICT with without wisdom is pretty dangerous. And another thing, thank you for education system academy. There are lots of Cisco academies. We are in the north, and Cisco Academy from Baghdad. Thank you for. I'm being a student in Cisco Academy. What is your idea for innovation and Cisco and wisdom? Last question. Hi, my name is Luis. I'm from Nicaragua. Regarding the comments on happiness without electricity, what is your opinion, and what can ICTs do to implement relations and not only technological development? To start answering the questions, you can take a couple. I think the first thing the lady talked about women and technology, there is search engine in the world. It's less about doing something and getting up and doing this. 18 I've done conference by United Nations. The questions have changed in 18 years. But willpower, I think, doesn't. The second thing about technology, access of $50 machine, again, is the same thing. It's not a matter of how, it's a matter of who's going to do it and who's motivated to do it. Just get on with it. I was here that one point of women and girls inclusion platform and role models are important. So the more we can be inclusive, look at gender parity. We look at the sessions this mornings. There are largely male-dominated ICTs, or so we make an extra effort to find the examples that may be not as big, but at a level in which women who are changing this field. I have a group of delegation of American social entrepreneurs with me. There are probably mostly women. We're doing a session today at 6 o'clock. Many are delegates, so women come to this and we can talk about this more. So it is an absolutely stupid result to disenfranchise women and minorities and the handicapped from the workforce. It is totally economically stupid. It makes no sense whatsoever. And so the new millennium goals beyond 2015 need to encompass women and the handicapped and other minorities as part of the workforce. One of the only ways that's a cultural problem is start to the problem in the individual person. It's a cultural problem. One of the easiest ways to do this is via technology. Via technology in Kenya, where we teach people who cannot hear to become computer technicians. So as a corporation, as a private sector, it's absolutely in our best interest that the entire global population participates in what has to be the end result. It has to be that way. This was the gentleman from Iraq. So we have invested heavily in trying to create that was initially shellfish. That is, we need computer experts. We needed. The world cannot build these fancy networks unless there are people in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and Kenya, and Nigeria. We need computer networks. We take them for granted. We have to have clean water, or else people die. We have to have electricity. Sorry about the comment being happy without electricity. No. You have to be happy with electricity, and you need clean air, and you need computer access. If you have all those things, life gets better. 1 minute each, because the Secretary General is pressing me. I just have two comments. The first one is about girls. I think our community, without them, the communities are nothing. We have university in which women gather and enjoy girl women's and give them technology faculties. Some of them are finishing and starting their own companies. These are community-led initiatives. I wanted to comment on the lady to say that the system that developed system that people can buy a scene that where people just sit and develop solutions. They don't do market research. They don't understand business processes. And once they finish their thing and you put it in the table, even it's really important, people will tend to oppose to change. To advise, you need to include your potential clients in the design processes of anything, and others, sometimes you give them for free. You tell them to taste it, and maybe the change might be slow and keep you asking to add more and more functionalities. Thank you.
Okay,
I just wanted to address quickly and how I ensure ICTs as a tool for development, and do it very quickly. One is, I think, at the end of this conference, there should pass a resolution that endorses government efforts to promote ICT, like every government giving tablets to the students. The second is we emphasize and recognize internet access as a basic human right. It has to be, and we have to endorse that globally. I think that the that leave this should go back and lobby the governments, let them know that we need internet access for everyone. We need ICT education for everyone. Thank you very much. I'm not going to enter into a summary of everything that has been said. I think we have a recollection. One thing that is key that I've heard from many participants is ensure participation regardless of whatever type of limitation or discrimination. Universality of ICT is the basic thing. Secretary General, you have the floor, the last word before we go to lunch. Time for lunch. I would like to just comment on a big issue that has been burning inside me all the time, is the gender issue, the girls in ICT, the women. And it's unfortunate that with the human comfort, 51 gets to 51 of the human population. I have 3 girls. I have 3 daughters and a boy. I know how bright the girls are and how they are dedicated and how serious they are about succeeding in life. We tend to compare women, as she said, as handicapped, and people with disabilities as if being a woman is just a disability. I can understand that we all have been brought a fair lesson that have been taught us by our mothers, and we simply can't get it. That's why we do a number of initiatives in ICT, gender equality programs. We're promoting. I wish a whole year, it's just some days, to help us to promote this issue and put it on the table. In forums like this are good to promote countries like Rwanda. Rwanda is the best example in the world. There is full parity, 50% women and men in the government, 50% in the parliament, and 50% of the ambassadors are women. It's clear, it's being implemented, and it works in this country, one of the best countries in Africa today, in just 10 years after a terrible genocide, to see how far they come and how they are succeeding. Kigali is the cleanest, 3 cleanest cities in the city that I have visited. I've been in more than 160 countries in the world, but it's one of the 3 cleanest cities that I've seen in my life. Así que a lot of things are happening. I believe that we need to take action on this issue, and education is key to it. Women and girls, for them to succeed in ICT. And one last comment. We tend to see ICT as an enabler, but it's an industry in itself. It creates jobs. We tend to use ICT to look for jobs. ICT we should use to create jobs. That's some of the things that we promote here. Therefore, I think we have a powerful tool in our hands. I was delighted to hear from you here. My goal is to come and listen for you. And thank you for sharing your ideas with us. Thank you. I think to give the floor to the minister to thank you for your interest, your support, and the work you're doing here in Costa Rica. So if you want to say a final word, please.
This. All the people who has made this summit possible, not myself, the whole team of ITU, from the ministry, from telecom, from the government of Costa Rica, and from many other organizations that are sponsored for. Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much to all the panelists that have illustrated with your knowledge and your good advice. Not only you people here present know what the motto is, you need to. There and go ahead. Lunch is about to be served by the pool at 12:30. Right now on the next session, we'll start at 14. Thank you very much.